Hi everyone, I am Sarah. I am a chief engineer at IBM, and I'm going to be talking to you about serverless spot and smashing barriers. So I want to start by just talking about what is tech for good. It refers to the intentional design, development, and use of technology to benefit people, society, and the planet. In other words, it uses our skills, data, and creativity to solve problems that actually matter. It is not about making profit or doing sales. It is purely about making the world better. So why do it? It is a great opportunity to dabble in skills and passions outside of your day job. It means you can do something that you've never done before. So use different tech or take on an entirely different role. It allows creativity and innovation. So outside of your day job, you get to do a lot more creativity, a lot more innovation, and you don't have to think about what it is that your employers want you to think. You can actually think broader. And that means that you can really put people and the planet at the center of that innovation. Most of all, helping others makes us feel good. And I always describe it as there's a warm, fuzzy feeling that you get when you help someone else do something. And that is what you get from Tech for Good projects. So it's not about what we build, but why we build it and who we build it for. So to introduce you to our Tech for Good project, I would like to introduce you to Kat. So Kat was studying photography at university. So it was 10 years ago when she went on holiday to Greece. And while she was on holiday, she was in a taxi, and that taxi crashed, and it left her paralysed from the shoulders down. So as someone who was studying photography at university at the time, that is obviously a horrific thing to have happened. She now has no movement in her hands. She can't hold a camera. So it pretty much put an end to her dreams until now. Can we get some sound on the video?
This is the IBM. The boss at IBM, I think, hired me because a woman has to stand up and be like, no, that's not fair. Not only men can do this job, I can do it as well. I think it is important for girls to work in technology because they should have the same rights as boys. If men do it only, it's not going to be that fun.
Everybody should design technology since everybody uses technology.
We need different people to be in different roles, including a girl. How do you feel right now that you can't press the buttons of a camera?
I became disabled 10 years ago, and since then I've learned to take photos in a bit of a different way.
What would you like us to make?
My fingers and wrists are completely paralyzed, so I would like to have a robot that can hold my camera, and then I will feel more independent.
Watch what happens when girls get to mold the labor. The future needs us.
Hello, FlyJig coming through. Nice to meet you. Glad you came through. Like to stay.
We have dreams worth building. The opportunities should be the same if you're a boy or a girl. If men only done everything, the girls might think, why are we not doing this?
There isn't enough women working in tech because there isn't enough role model they can look up to.
It needs to be equal, not too many women working there, not too many men working there. It should all be equal. Even if there's only men on that job, you can still just go through the interview and get hired.
What would you say to someone if they said, only boys can build robots?
I'd say, that's not true. How do you know that? Try and build a robot.
I would like something like a robot that can hold my camera.
We've contacted IBM because we've now got a hand-on spot to hold the camera, and that'll help Kat take photos like for passion.
She wanted like a big control, and so we made this like button out of the 3D printer to like put on the controls.
We learned about 3D printing, and I've learned a lot about the buttons and how the buttons work.
It made him move, it made him stand up, sit down, use the camera. It will be very useful for Kat.
So we tested Spot. Everyone took turns, and it was really fun.
Kat, we're really excited to tell you that we've made a new control feed.
And we're really excited for you to see it and to see your reaction to it.
Hello, FlyJ coming through. Nice to meet you. Glad you came too. Like you stand when you know you got moves. Just
Oh my God! This is the IBM.
So hopefully that gives you an idea of what it was we actually got up to. So IBM, Sane7, a photography company, and Text You Can, a charity trying to inspire more girls into tech, all teamed up to help Kat direct a high fashion photo shoot with Spot the dog as the proxy photographer. This is the first time that a paralysed artist has done this in the fashion industry, and it's a strong example of how we can use tech for good. So our goal, it was to enable the paralysed photographer to direct the high fashion photo shoot, but also to inspire those young girls and try and get them to help design and build the solution with us. So it sounds relatively fun and straightforward, right? It came with a lot of challenges. The photographer was in a wheelchair. This means that she has limited mobility in her hands, in her legs, so she can't travel anywhere, she can't hold anything. And so we have to come up with an innovative way for her to actually hold that camera. It's also tech for good, so we had minimal funding. We had quite a few funding issues, and I'll explain some of those challenges in a bit. And we also needed to find a way for the system to work when Kat wasn't necessarily with Spot, the photographer, in the same room. So we had to build some sort of network that would let them connect remotely. And most importantly, it was to inspire young girls, so we had to make sure it was simple and intuitive and something that they could actually get involved with and help us build. So the first challenge was allowing someone who can't hold a camera actually be able to take photos with a camera. So for this, we enlisted Spot the dog, aka Kuno. So this is Kuno. This is our Spot that we used. I don't know how much you know about Spot and Boston Dynamics robots, but he comes in lots of various ways and has different adaptations. So you can see we've got the version that has the arm and what we call a gripper, so he can actually pick things up with his mouth. And we decided that was the best route for someone to be able to hold a camera. If you have ever had an SLR camera and a lens, you will know how ridiculously heavy they actually can be. And we had a slight issue in when Spot was holding the camera, it did actually crack his mouth. So you can see from the top middle picture the damage that we caused. That meant that Spot could no longer actually hold the camera. And to fix that, like I mentioned, we had no budgets. We had to try and work out how we could do this without any money. So we tried the normal tact of gluing it together. That did not work. So we then tried sticking metal pins to try and hold it together. Again, that didn't work. We then resorted to 3D printing a new part, and 3D print material was not strong enough either. So this was going to end our project. We had to find some innovative way for us to keep going. And the way we did that is I put a shout out to IBM saying, can anyone help me build a custom mount for Spot the dog with no money, with no resources, and on your own time? Surprisingly, because it is tech for good, we did actually have people respond, and you can see what it is that we ended up building. So again, in the top photos, you can see there's now a new metal mount, and it actually holds the camera directly onto it. So it's much more stable and it doesn't have those same issues that we had before. So we now have a Spot that can hold a camera. We then use the Spot SDK and the camera SDK to actually move Spot and take those photos. So we now have a robot with a camera and we can control it from a laptop. Kat can't use a laptop because she can't use her hands. So we then had to think, how are we going to get Kat to be able to send those commands to the robot? And so we designed a control board. We decided to do an arcade style control board. So you can see from the photos, it's just a board with actual arcade buttons. And we stuck over those buttons with 3D printed buttons that she would be able to hit with her hand, with the side of her palm. So they were spaced out specifically how she could reach them in the size that she could use. We also added a joystick, so she can hit those buttons, but she can't hold them down or anything like that. So we added a joystick that meant she could switch modes with the buttons and then use the joystick for continuous movements. We added some lights onto it as well, because to limit the amount of buttons, each button had multiple modes on it, and then the lights would let her know what mode she was in. And to do all this, we used a Raspberry Pi to interface between the controls, Spot, and the camera. That very promptly crashed on us, so we ended up upgrading to a laptop instead. And we also used the Arduino to control the lights. But again, we did have some trouble with those. Blew up a couple, and we're now on our third Arduino. So we now have a way of controlling Spot, or for Kat to control Spot, and take photos locally in the same room. But now we had to think a bigger picture. So when Kat can't travel, if she can't get to a location, if it's not accessible friendly, then she needs to be able to control the robot without being there. And we had Kat in our remote location, and then we had Spot and the camera in our photo shoot location. So what we did was built a network that allowed the two locations to communicate. At one end, we have the photographer with 3 monitors, and the other, we have Spot with his camera, as well as a panoramic camera that would sit behind him so you could see where he was in the room, and the laptops that would be controlling all of the cameras. We had an AWS site-to-site VPN that would connect over cloud, connect those two sites, and allow them to talk to each other on 4G connectivity. And it meant that when she pushed the buttons on the control board, they were received by a USB serial connector. And then those messages would be sent over MQTT messages over that VPN and through the AWS IoT core. And they would then end up at the photoshoot site. At that site, we've got those laptops, so the messages would be received by those laptops at the photoshoot location, and then they would decide what those messages were, send it either to the SLR camera or to Spot to help him move around. Then if she presses the take photo button, then that will download the image from the camera and send that wirelessly to the laptop, which would then go back over that VPN and back across the network to the photo app viewer, back on the remote site where the photographer was sat. Doing all of this, it meant that she could not have to travel to places. It meant that the opportunities for her, there were a lot more opportunities, because if she couldn't sign up to a photo shoot because of the location, because she couldn't get there, that doesn't matter anymore. All she needs now is someone to take the robot and set up the network and which can be set up in seconds on the cloud, and she'll be able to do any photo shoot that she wants. So this project has proven that you can do remote photography for immobile people, but not only that, which is what we set out to do, but it's also sparked discussions. And so we've had discussions on how robots can help injured veterans. So how can we help them continue their passions, their hobbies, when they get back from injuries? It's also inspired thinking on assisted living and how robots can help with that. And because we did the bit with the girls, it's also inspired the girls to talk more about tech, take those conversations back to their schools, tell their friends all the cool stuff they were doing with Spot the Robot, and hopefully inspire more people to take tech careers. So Tech for Good can empower people. It's not just about being a passive consumer of that tech. It's about getting involved, being a builder and a creator. With the girls, it meant that they actually got to be immersed in real technology. They got to come to IBM. They got to see what was happening at the site. They got to play with the robot. They learned all about 3D printing. It gave them a much better view of what technology is. And hopefully that inspired those girls and everyone else who watched our videos and gave them a new passion for technology. In particular, I think this project is all about inclusivity, breaking those barriers, and amplifying voices that don't usually get heard. And it did inspire a lot of ideas and innovation, which will hopefully lead into more Tech for Good projects. And I think this has been a really good example of how technology can be a force for good, and hopefully it will inspire other people to start doing more as well. I came across this quote the other day that I thought was really good, so I'm going to share it. Is technology isn't just about innovation, it's about inclusion. And I think we really emphasised that with this project. And it's really great to hear that one of the girls who joined in the project, she now wants to be a UX designer when she's older. And another one realised that working in tech is much more fun than they originally thought. Some of them had parents that actually worked in tech, and they now think that their parents' jobs are much more interesting than they were before.
There isn't enough women working in tech because there isn't enough role model they can look up to.
Technology is for everyone. Whatever your passion, you have the future in tech.
And we do obviously have Spot here with us today. If you want to come and chat to us about how he works or actually have a go with him with the control board, we have brought it with us. So we will be sat over on that side later on. Please do come find us in the break.